Hello, everyone. This is Jim Biringer here, NHLRumors.com. Please subscribe to the channel, like this video. It's the off season. NHL rumors are starting to slow down a little bit. There's always a little lull in the off season, especially this time of July before things ramp up again in August for a stretch, and then we come into training camps. And last time we discussed about the Dougie Hamilton situation in New Jersey. We went around the league looking at different players, options, who was going to be available, what kind of trades could happen, if the trades were going to happen. And we always know there was going to be a lull. The action that we thought was going to happen is not there. Again, we'll believe it when we see it type thing. But now we're looking at some other interesting nuggets that are leftovers from the high prized players that moved on, that signed new deals, things that could have happened that didn't happen. And we're going to start in Minnesota. Two players, one who's entering the final year of his contract in Kirill Kaprizov, and two, a restricted free agent in Marco Rossi. Let's start with Kaprizov. He's got 1 year left on his deal. And according to Michael Rossi of The Athletic, who was on Daily Faceoff the other day, he talked about how Kaprizov and the Minnesota Wild are not close on a contract extension. Now they have some time, right? He's a pending unrestricted free agent. He becomes that next year. The Wild know they need to sign him, right? It's just a matter of the number, whether it's 14, 15, 16 million. They're going to keep Kirill Kaprizov in Minnesota. When I was on TSN radio on Tuesday in Montreal, discussed this. I said he could get more than Draisaitl. Leon Draisaitl currently makes 14 million with the Edmonton Oilers. He's going to go past that. Kaprizov will get paid whatever he wants from the Minnesota Wild because the Minnesota Wild know Kaprizov is their most skilled player they've ever had in franchise history. He's a game changer. He defies the odds. He makes them a better club. You saw what happened to that team when he wasn't in the lineup last year. Now, you go around the league and you look at it and you say to yourself, okay, comparables. Again, Leon Draisaitl, McDavid. McDavid is going to set the bar when he signs his new deal, so don't fret. Edmonton Oilers fans, Connor McDavid will sign. It's probably going to be a 4 or 5 year deal. He'll get his percentage of the cap. He'll get a 17, 18 million. But they know that Edmonton needs to get back to a Stanley Cup final and win. Minnesota is a little different because Kaprizov hasn't been out of the first round. This team hasn't been out of the first round since 2015. And they have a lot of work to do. Now, finally, all the Parise Suter buyout money comes off the books. They're able to put a team around them. It's just depending on the length of the contract. Could it be 5 years? Could it be 6 years, 7 years, 8 years? We know that Bill Guerin wants to get Kaprizov signed to an 8 year deal. Kaprizov may want to only go 5 years again because he wants to max out because the salary cap's going up. So that's an option for him as well. But I do believe that deal is going to get done, whether it gets done now, whether it gets done in a few weeks from now, beginning of the season. It's going to happen. Minnesota knows they have to get this done with Kirill Kaprizov. Kaprizov holds all the cards. And when the owner and the general manager are coming out and saying, we're going to pay him whatever he wants, usually that's going to get the job done. Again, a lot of people surprised it's not done yet. But again, got to work through a lot of details when both parties aren't close. This is what happens. Marco Rossi, on the other hand, a lot of people surprised he didn't take an offer sheet, didn't get traded. I think there's a hesitation from Rossi's part, as Michael Russo reported as well, to take a short-term deal. You look at it, and he was demoted to the fourth line. He didn't play a lot in the playoffs, but his production was up when he did play. He's a second-line center. That team needs a second-line center. Teams around the league need second-line centers. And he's a player that, again, could be used properly by the Minnesota Wild. They would be a really good team. You know, he stepped up when Joel Eriksson Ek was hurt, when Kirill Kaprizov was hurt. But there's an unwillingness to pay the player and maybe a hesitation on Bill Guerin's part not to see him as a Bill Guerin guy. We know he's been linked to other teams around the league, New Jersey Devils, Montreal, a whole bunch of teams. He could be offer sheeted. But again, the offer sheet, it's got to be worth it. Do teams want to give up a first and a third to pay Rossi over $7 million? You know, or do they come in a little lower like the Dylan Holloway, Philip Broberg deals were, where you have to give up a second and a third? But again, if you're in that range, Minnesota will match it and be say, thank you for doing our jobs for us. So again, and the player has to accept the offer sheet. So to me, the biggest thing is, where does he land? How can they get it done? Because these two parties are not even close either. Now, there's still some time before training camp, but again, Marco Rossi is hesitant to sign a short-term deal, a prove-it deal, because if he's not used properly and he's stuck on a third and fourth line, teams are not going to value him. Similar to what we saw with the Rangers and Kaapo Kakko before he got traded to Seattle, and now he's starting to show his worth as the second overall pick from 2019. So Minnesota is a place to watch as well. We move over to Anaheim. Anaheim is a place as well. You look at it. They got their business done. Lucas Dostal is there. We talked about how they got him signed. They're carrying 3 goalies with Mrazek and Billy Husso. Everybody is signed except Mason McTavish. And Mason McTavish is the outlier. Restricted free agent. He can be offer sheeted. Doesn't really have arb rights. Second line center. Again, teams need second line centers. Is he a Pat Verbeek guy? We know Trevor Zegras was not a Pat Verbeek guy. He gets traded to Philadelphia, reunites with Jamie Drysdale. Cutter Gautier's there as well. They need him. Mason McTavish is a key player to this team. Leo Carlsson's good. He's a big physical player. But again, it's very surprising that Pat Verbeek's putting his foot in the stand when it comes to these negotiations, because you're going to have another situation if Mason McTavish is not into camp, like with Trevor Zegras, where the longer this drags on and he's not in training camp, the longer and further behind he is with the rest of the team, especially with a new coach there in Joe Quenneville. They need to get this done. Whether it's a 4-year deal, 5-year deal, he's going to want to get paid what he's worth. I'm not sure he wants to take a bridge deal, but again, Pat Verbeek, following the footsteps of Steve Yzerman when they were in Tampa together, the bridge deals for Kucherov and Point, and then you hit it big on the next one. However, there's something to say about getting your players locked in long-term, because what's going to happen with Leo Carlsson when he's up and due for new extension? This is the risky run, and now we're hearing rumors that potentially Owen Zellweger is on the market as well, along with Mason McTavish. Teams want to trade for him. Mason McTavish could be offer sheeted, but again, the Ducks have cap space to do that. So I'm interested to see how this thing plays out in Anaheim. Again, how long can this take for McTavish and the Ducks to get this done? Only time will tell. But the hard line in the sand for Pat Verbeek right now is, he wants to pay him fair market value, but is the fair market value on McTavish's timeline and how he feels? Look, Ryan Strome knows how good he is. He talked with Dave McCarthy, NHL.com. But again, we're heading down this situation that is a Trevor Zegras situation, and they don't want that in Anaheim. They feel they're ready to take the next step. My opinion is they're not. Even with the new coach there, I think they're not ready to take that next step. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there in terms of Mason McTavish and the Anaheim Ducks. Let's bring it back over here in New Jersey on the East Coast. We're looking at Luke Hughes and his extension. He hasn't signed yet. And you say to yourself, why hasn't he signed yet? Well, the Devils and Luke Hughes, again, it's all about contract, the length of the contract, how long it is, does it expire, the cap space the Devils don't have, which they do. See, here's the thing. Everybody looks at a potential trade for Dawson Mercer and Andre Palat, and you have the right to look at those players, and I think one of those two players will be moved, maybe potentially Simone Nemec, if he feels he's not being utilized correctly in New Jersey, which there are some indications that he doesn't feel like he will be, even in the new system, and the potentially increased role that he could get with Jonathan Kovacevic out of the lineup to begin the year. And that's the key. Kovacevic isn't going to start the season for the New Jersey Devils. $4 million will be placed on LTIR. Now, Tom Fitzgerald did say they're going to take the holiday with the representatives. Luke Hughes says he wants to be there long-term. The Devils want him there long-term. The problem is the deal's not done yet. Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier got their deals done earlier. Jesper Bratt took a little bit longer to do. He signed a short-term deal, then he took another short-term deal, and then he got his long-term extension. Luke Hughes is the future for New Jersey Devils on the back end. How much he gets, reports, indications I've talked to, sources I've talked to, $7.5 million. Not sure the Devils want to go 8.5, similar to what Brock Faber is going to get, is getting in Minnesota. He's not going to get the 9.5 that Noah Dobson's getting in Montreal, and potentially the 10 million Lane Hudson could get in Montreal as well. The Devils know Hughes is their future on the back end. They need him there. Again, is it a 4-year deal, 5-year deal? It would be, I wouldn't say malpractice, but yes, there's two options on the table with the bridge deal and Hughes betting on himself multiple times. But I think the Devils want to get him locked into an 8-year deal. 7-8-year deal would be ideal. At 7.5, it would be a very, very valuable contract when the salary cap goes up. But they're still working away. Representatives from both sides are still talking, but that's the indications are that's what the range is for Luke Hughes. You look around the league, and I mentioned Lane Hudson. I was on TSN radio in Montreal the other day, was asked about Lane Hudson. I do believe Lane Hudson will stay there long term. Again, he's entering final year of entry level. They can get it done whenever. There's got to be a lot of patience in Montreal with this, but he's going to get a big time deal, and it could be a long term deal. Now, could he max out multiple times? Sure, he could. But I think the Montreal Canadiens want to get him signed like they did with Eric Slavkovsky, Kaden Guhle, Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield. They're going to get him signed to a long-term deal, and that's the way it should be done because of Jeff Gordon and Kent Hughes' salary structure. Moving on to next year's class, we talked about Kaprizov. The last two guys, Adrian Kempe and Kyle Connor, they're kind of tied at the hip because both players are valuable to their teams. Kempe respectfully for the LA Kings, Kyle Connor for the Winnipeg Jets. The Winnipeg Jets, they had their exorcism. They got guys to commit like Mark Scheifele, like Connor Hellebuck. It just depends on the number for Kyle Connor. Could he be the highest paid winger in NHL? You would believe so. He can score goals. That would be huge. 13 million is not a bad ask. As for Adrian Kempe in LA, $10 million, it seems like a high price, but again, he's so vital to that offense. And what they do, the Kings have no choice but to pay him, right? Again, two similar situations where both teams have to, you got to pay, right? You got to pay for that, and you got to pay for that goal scoring. And I do believe that Kempe will get his money. Whether it's 10 million is one thing. I think it's a little rich for Kempe, but it could be 9.5 million. As for Kyle Connor, I think he waits it out. I'm not sure he's going to sign right away because I think he wants to see that Kempe number. We know what Mitch Marner got, 12 million. Is it unreasonable ask from Kyle Connor to get that? No, and there's no indications like this is a Nikolai Ehlers situation where it was last year. We knew Nick Ehlers was gone because of how he was being used and not being used on the top line. Kyle Connor's part of that top line with Mark Scheifele. I believe the Winnipeg Jets will get that done, whether it's now or before the end of the year. The deal's going to get done. Could be a David Pastrnak type situation where they get it done by trade deadline, or if not before, right? We've seen it. We saw it with William Nylander in Toronto, got it done in Toronto around January. So Matthews signed in August. So these things take time, but there is an expectation that Kyle Connor could be paid over $10 million, could be close to Mitch Marner type money, and that would not be unreasonable for the Winnipeg Jets. So a lot of little nuggets out there as you peruse the rumor mill in the National Hockey League. A lot of things, a lot of moving parts. But stay tuned for the latest. Keep it locked in, NHLRumors.com. Again, subscribe to the channel. I've been Jim Biringer. Catch me everywhere on this channel. Subscribe to the channel. Like this video. Comment below. Leave me your thoughts. Take care. We'll be back again real soon.